I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates, Mina Kimes.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
All right, on that note, we're underway here, a live crossover edition of Patriots Beating Patriots Daily. Alex Barth, Brian Hines, Taylor Kyles, Mike Kadlick. We are coming to you, for those who are watching this recorded, and I feel like it's important we date and time these shows at this point, 4 o'clock on Tuesday. We will touch on the latest Brandon Aiyuk rumors, but the reality is, if you're watching this pre-recorded, they may not be the latest rumors at that point because this thing's moving quickly. So we'll do that at the end of the show, give more time to develop so we're even less filled in. But I want to start with practice today. And really the last couple days as we're doing these at the end of each block of practices, I think it's fair to say, guys, the dog days of camp are over. That's kind of what I look at this window.
Yeah, we're all in long sleeves now.
Well, I mean, these guys can't handle a little bit of rain. You know, New Englanders, Taylor, I guess
I spent some time in L.A.
You were in L.A. I'll give you a pass. These two guys, New Englanders, they're in raincoats, like 70 degrees out, not raining. We're under cover.
It's a little chilly.
So rip them in the chat all you want. But the dog days of camp are over at this point with the first preseason game next up on the schedule on Thursday. And it'll basically be game weeks from here on out. I want to start with Drake Maye.
Yeah.
I thought today was one of his better practices of camp. Struggled a little bit late in the 1-minute drill. We can get to that. But when I watched him today for most of practice, the one word I kept coming back to was comfortable. I think today was the first day that he really looked comfortable, that he was really in a rhythm, and that he was really able to kind of settle in and do what he does best. Brian, we'll start with you. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I was going to say confident, decisive, so kind of right along with you.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good today, starting in 7-on-7s in the red area. Like, he's still very impressive in the red area, which I guess kind of translates from his North Carolina film, but back-to-back, like perfectly placed back pylon fades to Kayshon Boutte and then Jaheim Bell. Then in 11s, he had a really nice drive, kind of drove the field, stalled at the end probably due to some pressure, but just kind of taking profits, taking what the defense gave him, a couple short completions, 3 to Jalen Reagor, I think, so it looked sharp there. And then the last 1-minute drill, which kind of fell off the rails but wasn't necessarily his fault.
We can get into that.
Which we'll get into. But, yeah, I thought more confident, more decisive. I think Drake Maye's kind of stacking some good days.
Taylor.
I think the same, and I think the comfort was a lot because this was one of the days where the offensive line wasn't the problem. Instead, again, we'll get into it later, but it was more the pass catchers, actually. And it's starting to kind of get in my head of, okay, when are we going to give Drake Maye the opportunity to maybe get some reps with the ones? Because I think now we've consistently seen, while he was more comfortable than he's been recently, and I think like throughout practice, this has continued a trend where ever since that second padded practice, he looks good. The accuracy's been on point. This was maybe his most accurate practice where I felt like ball placement was good throughout. And then, you know, a little bit of faltering later on. Don't think it was totally on him, but I really liked what I saw today from Drake.
Yeah, I think I like how you mentioned the offensive line sort of not being the problem today. I feel like that's where it sort of started and ended, where his processing has sped up a little bit, and you see him, we talked about it a lot yesterday on our live show, where he's scrambling a ton.
Yeah.
You didn't see a lot of that today because you saw he was being decisive with the football. It just hit off guys' hands and turned into, again, that interception in 1-minute drill. And you're right. I think we're going to see him with the ones a little bit more. I think we'll probably get a look at that a little bit on Thursday in the preseason game. I don't know if he'll be out there with the normal, I guess, offensive lineman ones. We'll see how that whole rotation goes because I'm sure we'll get to all the injuries that we're sort of seeing here. But at the end of the day, I think he's looking more comfortable. He's putting the ball in the right place. It's just, again, a couple drops here and there, and hopefully we get to see him with at least the one receivers on Thursday and sort of see the confidence continue to go. Because you're right, he is on a better track for sure.
Yeah, and I think what really helped, you mentioned that he's still at that second offensive line, but the true second offensive line had kind of been with the top unit the last few days with guys in and out of the lineup, and he's working with Nick Leverett today, who actually has been consistent in legit at center except for in that 1-minute drill, which I promise we'll get to. We keep teasing that. He had Caden Wallace with him as well.
Yeah.
No, so
big market
let's get
tease
to that again. Like he was good in the red zone, good in full field 11s. They go at the end of practice into a 1-minute situation. Jacoby Brissett went first. He started off on a low note, gets back behind the sticks. I think there was a false start penalty, pushed him back. 4th and long, he hits KJ Osborne over the middle. Great contested catch by Osborne over 2 defenders. Couldn't really move the ball much beyond that. Chad Ryland misses a 53-yard field goal wide left to close it. Drake Maye comes up. First play, he tests a tight window to Javon Baker on an out route. And I don't know if it was Baker's hands that popped it up or if the defender got a hand in there, but the ball pops up in the air and Marcellus Dial, is right there, makes the catch for the interception. I didn't so much have a problem with the throw as I did the decision. I get it's practice. You want to test things. It's a really tight window to test. Maybe could he have gone elsewhere. So they re-rack it to give him another chance after it being just one play. And he goes 3 and out. He had a miss. There was a bad snap by Antonio Mafia, delay a game. It was just kind of all over the place. He continues to struggle in these more live game situations. That's why I think Thursday is such a big test. And as we talk about him getting more reps with the ones, I think we see now that he's starting to become more comfortable. It's working for him in the red zone. He's doing better in full field. When that clock starts ticking, he's in the 1 or 2 minute. It's more live. He starts to struggle. Thursday, to me, I think maybe it's mischaracterized at times, and there's a give and a take here, right? You want to see him play up to the level where he's on par with the other ones, and you feel like he's going to give them an opportunity, or they're going to give him an opportunity, but he has to give them an opportunity. It's something that needs to be earned. And I think Thursday night is how Drake Maye earns more reps with the ones. And if he has a good performance Thursday night, then you start talking about, okay, well, you got a joint practice with the Eagles. This is a really good chance to evaluate his progress in that regard. You go into that second preseason game. Does he get more of a chance with them? That's what I think Thursday is about for Drake Maye. Can he prove? He'll have a better line, like you said. He should get some chances with better receivers. Given that, can he prove that he has earned an opportunity to work with what is truly the first-team offense on a more regular basis in practice, and then moving forward in the joint practice and preseason games?
So do you think you say he has to earn it. Do you think he has to earn it, or do you think they should kind of give it to him because he's your number 3 pick?
It's a give and take. It's a give and take. So when you put it that way, it's not about them giving it to him, right?
Right.
It's about, maybe earned is the wrong word, but if he's not ready, you don't want to put him in there. And
that's fair.
The last thing they can do, and I've talked about this, his progress needs to dictate their timeline. You can't have your timeline dictate it and hope his progress catches up. Right. So I guess when I say earn those reps, I mean show that he's ready for that next stage of the progress, Taylor.
And to add to that, I feel like, obviously you don't want to rush him out there, but there are still things where operationally and in terms of his energy, clearly he's still very much behind. Like, you got it in scouting reports before any of this happened where they said, yeah, he may take a year before he's really comfortable and can lead an offense. And if you looked at the mic'd up segment the Patriots released with Jacoby Brissett, really great content, period. But you saw Jacoby Brissett is comfortable. He's clearly the leader of this offense, whereas Drake Maye, I think he understands he's not quite there yet. You haven't really seen where, if you look at Drake Maye mic'd up with UNC, very different energy. He clearly is a leader of that program. He talks to everybody. He's buddy-buddy with everybody. He's still getting in the mix here, so I don't think he's ready to really get the keys from Jacoby Brissett. And as we mentioned in pretty much every practice, at some point you do see the difference in operation, whether it's, pre-snap penalties, which have happened for both units, not really getting things going in timely fashion. I think those are the areas where, those are some maybe not leadership thing, that comes with experience, but in terms of getting everybody on the same page, getting the plays done in the way that Jacoby Brissett can, there's a gap there. So while I'd like to see, hey, can he ball with the top defense and look good with the starting players, I also want him to just be able to get to the line of scrimmage efficiently and snap the ball without there being issues.
Brian, what's the stake for Drake Maye Thursday night?
I think you said everything. His career is on the line. No, I think, I was ready to give him reps with the quote-unquote starters after the first block of practice.
You're ready to give him reps with the starters after they drafted him.
That's true. Before they drafted him. But,
Week 18
we
last
put that,
year.
I think we mentioned that after the first preseason game is when we kind of saw Mac do that a few years ago. So, yeah, this could be the start where if he goes out and, again, not earns it, I think he's showed that he deserves them. And now if he goes out there, and we mentioned the no huddle and the hurry-up situations, maybe he has a really good hurry-up situation, Thursday night, and just – again, not earn, but just deserve more of those snaps with the number ones.
All right, so Gerard Mayo said before practice today, the plan right now, and he left wiggle room for it to change, but the plan right now is for all 4 quarterbacks to play. You're making the decision. How do you break up the snaps?
Well, Jacoby Brissett got a ton of run today, so he's expected to start, but maybe that's just for a series or two. And then I would say Drake Maye, maybe the rest of the first half, maybe into the third quarter, like maybe give him the first drive coming out of halftime to get that experience, and then you're kind of Bailey Zappi, Joe Milton range from that point on.
Taylor.
I'm on the exact same page, so I guess I'll just go a little deeper into how exactly maybe the third and fourth quarterback reps are going to split up. That's what's going to be most interesting for me. They've given Bailey Zappi some moments like in warm-ups where there's some clear deference to the veteran, where they'll let Bailey Zappi be the second quarterback during warm-ups, and then you don't see it again when things actually get competitive in teamwork. So maybe we see, Bailey Zappi open up the third quarter or something like that, open up the second half, and then we have Joe Milton putting things away, and it changes throughout the course of the preseason. But I do feel like at least with this first game, it's going to be Zappi out there first, and then Joe Milton maybe in the fourth quarter, like after a couple drives for Zappi.
I'll just add to the beginning of the game. I don't think Brissett should be out there for long at all. One drive, get a little comfortable, see what you have. Because, again, this plan for Drake Maye is work behind Jacoby Brissett, let Jacoby Brissett ease the Patriots offense into the season where if you, God forbid, lose Jacoby on, a second or third drive, what have you, to some freaking, again, I don't want to speak that into existence.
Right.
Something happens, then you kind of have to revamp this whole thing and figure out, are we going to go with Drake Maye early? Are we going to try and get Bailey Zappi ready to be this? Like, there's a lot of, there would be a pretty shitty trickle down to happen if Brissett were to get hurt somewhere in the preseason. He's so important to Drake Maye's development and getting them into the season. I don't want to risk it.
We've seen them do this in the past. I think Brissett gets a couple of drives just to go through the rhythms, but they'll probably be run heavy to avoid the situation you're laying out. Yeah, so I think Brissett gets a couple of drives because I think this is all we're going to see him in the preseason.
Okay.
Next week you have a joint practice, and a lot of this is guessing. Under Bill, I can tell you exactly how this would go because I saw him run this thing for 20 years. Now, I would assume Brissett doesn't practice next week with the joint practices, so assuming, and he's not, the third preseason game is the new fourth preseason game. So assuming this is it for Jacoby Brissett, 2, maybe 3 drives. Drake Maye comes in either at the very end of the first quarter or in the second quarter. The question to me, and this may be decided live. This may not be, and it should be decided live and not ahead of time.
Right.
Does he come back out after the half? Bill Belichick used to talk a lot about this. There's tremendous value in going through that process of going into the half, meeting with the coaches, figuring out the adjustments, going out and executing them. Ideally, I think Drake Maye plays second quarter, goes through that process at the turn, comes back out 1 or 2 drives in the third quarter, and then you see to Zappi and then Milton. The problem is, if they can't get it blocked, and if you can't protect him, and no, you don't have to worry about blocking Brian Burns. I know I said that on the Sports Up show earlier. Brain fart, he got traded.
Oh, yeah.
Who's the other defensive tackle?
Derek Brown.
Derek Brown, right?
Yeah.
If you can't block him, if you can't get this thing blocked, you can't risk him getting hurt.
Right.
So I think that's going to dictate exactly how much Drake Maye plays.
I also think of not for this game, I guess this is more for against the Eagles, but I think of the Packers last year. Where they did have joint practices. They were intense. They went 2 days. And we still saw Mac Jones in the starting offense get a couple reps in there. Also, I don't think this offense actually, that's a good, who knows where it's going to be there. But it's hard to get worse than the offensive line they put out there last year and how bad things got. So I feel like that Packers game gives us a better idea. I also think there's going to be more game planning against the Eagles because Gerard May was very clear this is not about game planning. This is purely fundamentals. I think maybe, like you mentioned, third quarter, you see Jacoby Brissett get out there just to kind of get all those guys cold and see what they can do. But this game, I really feel like it's going to be super straightforward. One drive for Jacoby Brissett. If it's successful, if it's not, and they go 3 and out, maybe you see him back out there again.
A little niche question here. Who is the third quarterback? Bailey Zappi or Joe
I think it's Zappi. Taylor mentioned the deference to the veteran.
Oh,
so,
in the game,
I think in order it's Zappi. I think it may be some of what we've seen in practice. In order it's Zappi. Who ends up with more reps? I think it's going to be Milton.
Yeah.
I think Zappi may only get a drive or 2. It may just be, let's say Milton does make the turn. Let's say Maye does make the turn. All right, so he plays 1 or 2 drives in the third. There's going to be 1 or 2 more. That's Zappi. And then Milton gets the whole fourth. I think it would be something like that. All right, that's a lot on the quarterbacks. Let's pause, pay the bills real quick. We'll come back. We'll talk about some other key points on the offense heading into Thursday night.
Dog days of summer here in Boston, which means it's time to get to some games over at Fenway Park. This baseball season, I'm using Game Time to land my Red Sox tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's super easy. You just open the app, click sports, and the games will be right there for you. Right now, you can get tickets to the Rollin' Red Sox for as low as $11. You can even buy parking for the game and check out your seat view right in the app. With Game Time, you can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, and more. Get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
That's awesome.
All right, welcome back. Patriots Beat, Patriots Daily Crossover. Alex Barth, Brian Hines, Taylor Kyles, Mike Kadlick. Just touched on the quarterbacks. Let's get to, what do you guys want to do first, offensive line or receivers?
Oh, offensive line.
All right. Who the hell is going to be the offensive line in week 1 of the preseason? No, I'm saying, like, there's been so many moving pieces, and we saw more today. City So wasn't involved. Michael Jordan mixed in there at guard. I think there were a couple other guys, right, that mixed in at guard. Was it just Jordan with the top
I think it was
unit?
Michael Jordan exclusively with left guard, yeah.
All right, Tar Heels.
I'm going.
Obviously the other Michael Jordan. Gerard Mayo has talked about, and he said this multiple times, that the cutoff to decide, like, this is going to be our offensive line to start the season is the second preseason game. I know we're talking a lot about the first, but that second preseason game isn't that far away. You have 1 game and 2 practices, essentially, or 3 practices to get this thing figured out. So you have to figure the guys that get an opportunity in this game. You know, Chuks Okorafor will be a factor. He's hurt, right? But this is a big opportunity. It's kind of the chance before the chance to try out the line. Well, we've seen Caden Wallace's role diminished, a lot of moving pieces at guard. Who should be the starting 5 on Thursday night?
Well, Vidarian Lowe's been the left tackle the last 5 practices now,
Yeah.
so I would be surprised if he's not at left. And then you saw Michael Jordan first up at left today. I would doubt David Andrews plays, so I'd go Nick Leverett. I doubt Mike Onwenu plays, so Layden Robinson's probably next up, and then Calvin Anderson has been the right tackle. So that would be my left to right, because Caden Wallace is with the second unit. Chuks Okorafor is hurt, so he's not going to
put him out
play.
there, right.
And then City So limited, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, veterans. Like I would go Lowe, Michael Jordan, Nick Leverett, Layden Robinson, Calvin Anderson.
Yeah,
so
you've
potentially 0 starters from what we think is their best 5.
Well, you've had so many starters go out with, injuries, right? Okorafor missing time. Obviously, Caden Wallace got, something happened with him today. He comes back out there. But Calvin Anderson gets rolled up on the other day. He hurts his ankle. So, like, I wonder if that's why City So wasn't out there today, because we're getting ready. We're trying to get these guys ready for this preseason game on Thursday. We're going to put Michael Jordan out there and see what we have there. So I'm with you. I don't really see a reason to put out many of the starters, but then again, you want to see what Drake May can do.
Right,
so
if that's the starting 5, what's the group
22
with,
there?
Thank you. What's the group with May, or does that group just play 45 minutes total? I'm a little worried they're behind schedule on the offensive line.
I mean, yeah, these are crucial padded practices. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of days they get to do their job in the trenches, and this is a day where I will say Vidarian Lowe has not looked good, has not looked bad at left tackle. I've said it so many times. I think that's where he's most comfortable. That's not as much of a red flag, even though you don't expect him to start. City So, I'm not freaking out yet because he did miss 1 day during the spring. It kind of flew under the radar, but, maybe it's something like that. I really don't know. But, yeah, it really stinks with Chuks Okorafor. Obviously, he got a lot of reps, and that is nice that he's got them under his belt. This is the 3rd straight practice he's missed after he had to leave 4 practices ago because of the injury that he's now out with. So it's extremely discouraging. This is, especially for a run-first team, you need these repetitions with all the outside zone and also all the other types of concepts they're going to be using. You need this to really know how the other guy's going to respond and maximize what's going to be the real thrust of your offense. So, thrust of your offense. Is that a phrase?
I think
it
that
is
works.
now.
Maybe not, but
But yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried.
The thing is that collapse.
Chad, who's the thrust of the Patriots offense?
Drake May.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
You said Chad. I was like,
Chad Ryland?
Chad.
I understand. No, it collapsed so quickly too, right? Like, with the I think it was either the second or third padded practice.
The second padded practice before the day off.
Yes,
we were like, this is looking kind of good.
Like, here we go.
It was Okorafor at left. It was City So, David Andrew, or maybe it was a
Okorafor at right.
Caden
Wallace.
Wallace.
Oh yeah, Wallace at left, Okorafor at right. They were cooking with gas. They were running the football. They were pounding the rock. Like, it was great. And then all of a sudden, we're a week and 3 days later, and nobody's healthy, and everyone's like Okorafor's walking around, and Caden Wallace is down on the second team. Like, it looked really good at the time, and now it feels like we're just backwards a year ago.
And I will say this: Calvin Anderson was asked about what it's like having all these rotations with the attrition and everything. And realistically, as annoying as it is, like, oh, the season hasn't even started yet, and we're losing all these offensive linemen. That's the game. Offensive linemen get hurt. It is not an easy position to play, and sometimes you do need to know that you at least have some capable backups. So I will say the slight silver lining is these are guys, a lot of them who are on the line, you do expect to still make the roster. At some point, they could play a role this season. So it is nice that they get out there and they get some reps with that top offense. But at the same time, obviously, you want as much chemistry as possible. It's just that hasn't been the reality.
I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, 4-person show. There we go.
Most of it there.
All right,
Maybe talk a couple people off the ledge. I don't know.
So, Brian, we'll start with you on wide receivers. Obviously, we're looking a lot at the rookies.
Aiyuk.
No, we'll get to Aiyuk. We're going to do that at the end so we don't get the podcast curse.
Sure.
Obviously, we're going to be looking at the rookies a ton in this game, and the rookies have been steady Eddie, consistent, like same thing start to finish. I think Javon Baker had a very Javon Baker day today where he was involved in the Drake Maye interception, also made a pretty spectacular catch in the end zone for a touchdown. I think that's who he is. He's going to be a boomer bust wide receiver. He's going to make some great plays. There's also going to be some drops. You hope the good outweighs the bad. The drops don't come in big moments. Taylor, you're about to jump out of your chair.
Brian and I looked at each other at the same time like, did he? So is that the play that you're talking about, the one with Gonzalez, right?
Which one?
The play against Gonzalez and the
Yeah.
So we actually talked to Evan after practice. I don't think it was a touchdown. It looked like Javon Baker didn't get his feet down, and I
thought he got his hip down.
I thought so too. That was the conversation on Media Hill anyway. That he did. He basically fell on his hip in the end zone, but we couldn't get a good view.
The one
of it.
over there.
That was the one the other day in the back of the end zone. I thought he was out of
extended, like going out of bounds.
Yeah. No, but I thought he got his
bounds.
hip down.
I'm also a hater, but
I say all that to
Evan
say
had the best view from up top.
Yeah.
So we'll
All
defer
right.
to
So
Lazar.
I guess
that-
we'll listen to Evan.
We always
okay.
have to defer
actually,
to Lazar.
wasn't your
on
buddy
CLNS.
right in the bleachers and
My
said
buddy
he
was
out of
over there
bounds?
said it was a catch.
I thought he said it was out of bounds. Okay, we're all over the place.
We got to
now with
connect your
Javon
buddy.
Baker.
At
Maybe
Evan
there's
so
a
they
different
can-
one. All right.
I will say he had the two
then
drops
skip
in the
it.
final 11 on 11, and that's something where you saw at college a lot. Drop issues. We've kind of seen that throughout the summer too. So
That's been my thing is with Javon Baker. I would say this was probably his worst day of training camp, and I've been high on Javon Baker, and I've been high on Jacoby Brissett. Two guys, I have them both stocked down today just because I hold them to that standard. I know Javon Baker can go out there and make these crazy plays near the sideline. He can catch anything that comes his way. The consistency needs to improve. There were other days where he was good enough that I was like, okay, he dropped one pass, he couldn't get his feet in on this crazy difficult play. That's fine. But now it's becoming a pattern where it feels like there's at least one missed opportunity every practice, and on a day where you don't have the good to outweigh the bad, I just have to say I wasn't impressed with what I saw from him today, just because once again, this is a player who has a legitimate ceiling to be like a low-end wide receiver one, which isn't a scoff. He was a fourth-round pick, but we see he was a fourth-round pick because he's not making all the plays that are available.
I think that's what he's going to be. I think that's who he is. I think that's his career is. Again, he does some
don't
really
say that to
special.
me.
He does some. No, and that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of wide receivers in the league like this. Like,
Not everyone's going to be Randy Moss.
right,
Like,
exactly. Like, he's going to make some spectacular plays. There's also going to be some drops. Ideally, he's good enough that the good outweighs the bad, and you just hope the drops don't come in big moments.
And I think there's times where technically, like there's a few times where he'll jump in the air for a pass and it's just like, dude, extend. You don't have to put yourself in the air in a position where a defender can push you or influence you and make it harder for you to keep your feet in. Like, those are the things where when I first saw him, I remember the hype and everyone's like, oh, he's crazy good. And I'm seeing it and I'm like, well, there's a lot of times where he could be better. And I think it's going to take like a year or two, maybe even 3, before those more fundamental things are a part of his game and he doesn't have to think about them. But until then, once again, we have to acknowledge that as talented as he is, the consistency needs to improve.
All right, let's get some of the veteran wide receivers. Tyquan Thornton was off to the side for most of the team drills today. Gerard Mayo said before practice, all the players who are healthy enough to play in a game will play in the game. Who knows what that means for Tyquan Thornton, but boy, it's tough if he misses this game.
He has to play. I mean, he has to play. He has gone from second-round pick. Whoa, what?
I'm just like, can he?
Taylor's
I'm like,
a
can he? I'm not
deep
even against
sigh.
him.
Yeah,
Can he?
no. I mean, he goes from, the 52nd pick or whatever
Yeah.
he was 2 years ago, a guy who is like, he came out, he was good in his first spring, promising camp, gets hurt. And then last year, collarbone, gets hurt, doesn't play the preseason. This year, I buy stock again. I'm like, let's just see what happens here. And then it's literally like what we saw in the stock market yesterday, where it's just coming crashing
I don't
down
know, it's
again.
that bad.
It maybe it's not, but again, he comes out after practice, tells us it's a soft tissue injury. that he's dealing with and managing once again. It's like he is now at the bottom of that wide receiver room. It's now Polk and Baker and Osborne, and we're not going to do Kendrick Bourne because we don't know where he's going to be, but there's guys where he's competing with Juju and with Jalen Reagor. If he doesn't play in the preseason, how do you get him on the roster?
Well, let me add this too. Sorry, Taylor, and then we can tie it all together. There's one more name on that list. I thought had a really good day today, has actually started to stack days a little bit, and that's Kayshawn Boutte. I don't know if that's where you were going to go, but like,
no, I like that.
This is when we were all so cautiously talking about Taekwon and being like he's making progress and blah blah. But this is the exact situation we all saw. Something happens, he's out, and somebody comes out and outperforms him. And Kayshawn Boutte, to me, has run with this opportunity, and he's somebody who probably will play Thursday night and will have a chance to make some plays.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So my whole issue with Tyquan Thornton was that, one, it's frustrating because they clearly want him to be the starting X receiver.
Yes.
One, schematically, I don't really know if that's a very good idea because I don't think he has a skill set for it. But beyond that, I'd like to see Kayshawn, I'd like to see Javon Baker get more of those opportunities because, Jalen Reagor feels like a one-trick pony. I think we know what he is. He can win vertically. He might catch a slant or two, but he's not somebody who's going to route anybody up. He's not someone whose hands you can rely on consistently enough where he is your X. And Tyquan said it himself today. He's done nothing in the league. Now, Boutte is someone I completely agree. He's kind of like Javon, where there have been some missed opportunities, some drops. I'm seeing way more high difficulty catches and plays from him than I'm seeing from really anybody outside of like KJ Osborne and Javon Baker when he's on point. So I like that. I would just love to see Kayshawn get more opportunities to be the starting X, not even Jalen Reagor, because I just don't understand the point of having Jalen as one of the top two guys. Early on, he's a veteran, sure, but now let the young guys get more opportunities because I don't know what you think the end game is of putting Reagor out there or relying on Tyquan Thornton when he's proving once again that he cannot be relied on.
I think the hope with Reagor is they want to keep him on the roster for special teams, but as Gerard Mayo said, they're not going to have special team specific players. They want to be able to justify it by knowing even if it's not the starting X, he can give them something. But Brian, we talked a lot on Patriots Beat about consistency being Kayshawn Reagor's biggest issue. Kayshawn Boutte, a lot of names.
Fuse them, please.
Kayshawn Boutte's biggest issue. And now here we go. Like, he's starting to stack days, and maybe he's making a push.
It wasn't even Jalen you messed up because we have 3 Jalens.
Yeah, there's 3 Jalens. That's harder typing than speaking.
3 Jalens that all spell their
differently.
first name differently. But, yeah, he's been running he's got a good amount of run, Kayshawn Boutte, and I agree with Taylor. Like, his hands have been very impressive, I thought, the last few practices. He had the fade from Drake Maye today. There was another one, I forget the exact situation, but it was a nice, like, tight contested window, like, snagged it down. So his hands have been impressive. And, yeah, you are maybe not as many of the big flash plays, but a little more consistency, and that might help his case moving forward.
All right, so before we move on, I want to get some quick things on the defense. We got kickers today, and then Brandon Aiyuk. Mike's got something to tell you guys.
We have where is it?
I saw you in a SpongeBob thing open on your phone.
Well, yeah,
like,
because we have some Aiyuk
do the
news. We have a little bit of Aiyuk news with Josina Anderson.
All right, so let's do the read. Stay tuned, and then we'll get into Brandon Aiyuk.
All right, I need to pull this up right now, so we'll stall a bit. You guys can
someone in the chat said Mike Onwenu is the thrust of our offense. So.
Honestly,
that's a good one.
Probably.
All right, let's talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 stat projections for players and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into $1,000. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on Prize Picks. You can do this while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. Make a Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. From lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup, or getting entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. I love Prize Picks. I hit on a lot in the Celtics throughout the playoffs, and now we're back with Team USA out in France. So make sure you download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match bonus up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match bonus up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Did you wish there was a helicopter going in the
background? Seriously. Much more clear, much more clean than yesterday's. Jesus. But, yeah, that's Prize Picks. So code CLNS, a $100 deposit match bonus.
All right, we'll get into that Brandon Aiyuk update in a little bit. Basically, the update is the Patriots are still in. I want to just fold that in the whole conversation before we go there, because once we get to that, we're not getting back to the game Thursday night. A few more things I want to hit on. Big thing on the defense for me. Player to watch, Christian Gonzalez. He's been better the last couple days. He's definitely making strides. You're seeing more of that number one corner, product out of him.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, some people have said, I'm not worried about the practices. He's a gamer. He's going to show up when the lights are brightest. Obviously, the preseason is just not when the lights are brightest, but it's a game. Gamer's game.
It's like Jimmy
Let's see
Garoppolo,
it.
kind of.
Not even close. I
had to. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't.
Sorry.
You really didn't. I want to see Christian Gonzalez bounce back in this game. He'll be a player I'm definitely looking closely at, Brian.
Yeah, he gave up a few more catches today. I'm still not worried about him. I'm kind of with you. I think he is more of a game player. And Drake Maye kind of even said something in one of his press conferences the other day. He's like, sometimes they even have to get on him to practice a little harder or something along those lines. That's not an exact quote, but yeah, I think a lot of practice is just kind of like mental for him, and then he's going to like put that in his brain almost and then go out there and execute it on the game field on Thursday or Sunday or whatever. So yeah, like to see, I don't know how much run he'll get because he is like their top guy, but yeah, a big game from him Thursday night if he plays would be kind of encouraging.
I'll stick with the secondary. I'll go with Jalen Hawkins, a guy where it's kind of hard to notice him at times on the field. You see him around the ball pretty consistently, but with safeties, it's not always easy to understand where exactly they were seeing or how they reacted. And with Jalen Hawkins being so hyped up by coaches and teammates, I'm excited to see what he can do out there, how they plan on using his versatility. They keep mentioning his versatility, even though we mostly see him on the back end, although he does mix in different spots. So, yeah, he's going to have a big role in this defense. Drake Maye told us, so I want to see what he looks like in game action.
Yeah, my guy's in the secondary as well, but I'll quickly throw O'Shea Zimenez in there too. I'm excited to see him because, with the trickle-down effect with Judon and everything in that room, I'll be curious to see how he can rush the passer on Thursday. But I'm sticking with the secondary too, and it's Alex Austin because, Gonzalez and the other Joneses are sort of the three that they're going to, rotate in those three corner packages. But Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden have kind of been up and down throughout camp in that sort of backup corner role. So I'm curious to see if he can kind of separate himself because he was someone we talked about all summer, really, before camp started, as someone who could be the opposite corner with Christian Gonzalez on the other side, and then you can kind of use John Jones in the slot. It's sort of gone away from that lately. Jonathan Jones is hurt out here as well, so I kind of want to see how the back end of that corner room shakes out with Bolden and then obviously Austin as well.
I'll just add up front, since we didn't really touch on that, with Judon's situation uncertain, Barmore, I don't want to say situation uncertain, but you're not going to have him.
Right.
We've seen them rotate a bunch of different guys in. I thought Sam Roberts popped today. He had a good practice. We've seen Tristan Hill make some plays. Mike Purcell, who's good? Not all of those guys are going to factor in, replacing Barmore, and we'll see what happens with Judon. But somebody's going to have to emerge from that group, and especially up front, game situations is how you do that, right? So I think just the front as a whole, who emerges is maybe a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, Zimenez, you mentioned. Keon White has still been really active and disruptive up front. Another guy who we all know, Anthony Jennings, yesterday watching him in one-on-ones, seemed to have a little more juice as a pass rusher. And then today in team drills, I think he had
2 sacks.
Taylor, you got all excited.
I love me some Anthony
I was
Jennings.
debating if it was 2 pressures or 2 sacks. Definitely 1 sack, but I think it was 2 sacks. So that's someone who, has just carved out a role as a, edge run defender. But if he can start getting some juice as a pass rusher, that would be a big boost to his game and this defense.
I'll let you go on your soapbox. I know you love Jennings, but I'll just say he's going to probably get a ton of run because Uche missed practice again today. And Matthew Judon is probably not going to play.
Yeah, that's a big one. Joshua Uche is missing multiple practices in terms of not participating in team drills, which is very discouraging for a guy who, was going to be such a better fit in this DeMarcus Covington defense. And a big part of it, I think, is going to be line games and things like that. And you're losing time, kind of like the offensive line, where you need chemistry on those things, and he's losing that. But in terms of people to step up, I'm going to stay on my Jeremiah Farm soapbox.
I can't believe that's my bad for forgetting.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And honestly, he has fallen behind Mike Purcell. He's been playing over Jeremiah Farms, which I personally don't love. But I do think that Farms is one of the few guys in that defensive interior who can bring both pressure and pass rush. He's no Christian Barmore. I don't even know if he's necessarily Daniel Equale, but he is a little bit bigger, and I do really like what he showed late last season. So I'm hoping he can have another strong preseason like he did last year, where he earned a lot more of the coach's respect and can just establish himself as somebody who can maybe play, not necessarily every down, but be that, versatile type of player who's more well-rounded than what they would have in a Purcell or a Gotcha.
And just Tristan Hill, too, had a strip, sack, forced fumble, pressure, weird thing today, but he spent some time in the medical tent yesterday, so good to see him out there. He's been out there a lot and disruptive again.
I'll actually highlight that play because we talk a lot in training camp, like you don't know what a sack is because you can't hit the quarterback. Is it a sack? Is it a pressure?
He said, screw it, I'm just going
to
swat the ball away.
Clean strip sack of Bailey Zappi. Zappi had the ball back. Hill just knocked it out of his hand as he would in a game, textbook play.
And you and I were looking like, is that allowed? Can he do that?
Hey, didn't hit the quarterback, just hit the ball. No, you can absolutely. I remember being at a camp. This was before I covered the team when I was growing up. Rob Ninkovich's first year here had I think it was Hoyer was the backup at the time, had that play where it was a clean strip sack. And it was in red zone too, or it was not red zone, backed up, right? So we fell on the ball for the touchdown. It was like, who's this guy? That was a heads-up play.
There
Bill's going to like that, and wouldn't you know it? So
sure did.
Maybe, Tristan Hill, maybe something similar there, something to watch for. Special teams. 5 kicks today for Chad Ryland, 4 for Joey Sly. Was it 2 days ago that Sly got the one in the live run-on, hit from 57 yards, most impressive kick at camp. Ryland's extra kick today was a run-on attempt from 53, pushed it left. In the 4 field goals at the end of camp, Joey Sly missed from 49, so they both missed. I do think Ryland is still 1 kick ahead of Sly in terms of makes, right? They have the same number now.
2 kicks ahead.
2 kicks ahead.
I think it's 24 of 27 for Ryland and 22 of 27 for Sly. Okay. I'll pull that up. You keep
pull that up, but Sly still has the 57-yarder, which feels like it holds a little more weight. This thing feels neck and neck, and we've said this is going to be decided in the games. Hopefully we've made this joke how many times that they got 3 kicks in the entire preseason last year. Hopefully they get a chance to kick in this game, and the game's coming ahead. But I don't know. Feels neck and neck. Feels awfully close. One other note, Brian, while you pull that up. Tucker Addington was the long snapper today, not Joe Cardona. Couple low snaps. Good job by Bryce Banger. It was awesome today. Another really good day for him. Killed in the punt drills, and he recovered
coverage team too.
Recovered 2 low snaps. That both of the kicks on the bad snaps from Addington were good. But what's the splits for the summer?
Ryland 24 of 27, Sly 22 of 27.
Yeah, but Sly's been better from distance. It feels neck and neck to me.
He had the 57, but his miss today was from 49. I think outside of the 57, he's had more iffy issues from distance, I'd say. But the 57 was the most impressive kick of camp, I'd say. But maybe the most encouraging thing was all the makes were right down the middle.
For both of them, yeah.
For both of them, where we've had a lot where, you're on the left upright, I'm on the right upright, and we're leaning and looking, and we're like, it's good. Today was pretty clear right down the middle, except they both pushed one wide left. But, yeah, this is going to be decided in the game. It's too close out there.
I'll leave the special teams analysis to the Patriots beat guys. Daily kind of tries to stay away from that stuff. But I'll ask the question, in this neck-and-neck battle, does Chad Ryland's the fact that he was a 4th-round pick last year, still on a rookie deal, does that factor in at all? Are they going to try and make him win the job, or do you think it doesn't matter because it's sort of Belichick?
Right. So that last thing you said, it does a little bit, but not as much as it normally would because it's a new regime.
Staff. Yeah, that's what I would say. Maybe his age, if anything,
right.
Because so many of these young kickers, they struggle the first year, even sometimes the second year. And then something happens. It just flips, and it works for them. So maybe they're more inclined to go through with Chad Ryland right now, and even if there's still some struggles, that could benefit him. But, yeah, I don't know about the new regime and everything.
But you go back to, I tweeted this today. I talked about before, Jacoby Brissett, 1-minute drill live, 4th and long, converts it to KJ Osborne. All right, you're moving the ball, kind of stalls out. Chad Ryland misses the 53-yard, and everybody's like, oh, great. So it's, it's like what it was last season.
Yeah.
Those kind of money kicks are the ones you want to hit because that's a situation that will absolutely come up in a game at some point, and that can be the difference. So I think it's not just the 57-yarder from Joey Sly. It's that it was in that live situation, and that Ryland has the miss in the live situation, I think holds some weight. And again, Bryce Baringer is really good today. I think that pretty much wraps it up on special teams.
The only thing, and we were just talking about this before we came up with the kickoffs and the kick returns.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any of Isaiah Bolden doing the returns, and we all know he was historically good at Jacksonville State in college. but we haven't seen him return, and he said he hoped he got out there Thursday night, which I don't know. It just doesn't sound like something you would say if you knew you weren't going to return, right? So I don't know if they're hiding him on the practice fields. Like, again, he was electric at Jacksonville State. He was the returner in their 2 preseason games last year before he got hurt, but we haven't seen much of him at all here. It's been Jalen Reagor, Antonio Gibson, more of those guys. So I don't know, just something to watch there now that we'll actually get to see a live return.
If they're going to hide him, though, wouldn't they just wait till the regular
Exactly.
season and maybe he
doesn't make any
spoke too
sense to
soon?
me.
Again, it was just something weird
It
for
was weird.
someone who hasn't returned kicks to say, "Oh, I hope I suddenly get out there Thursday night." Like, I don't know, just
It's
something to watch.
And we saw him joking around with Troy Brown a couple of days ago while they were doing kick returns, but he wasn't part of it. It seemed like he was like, come on, give me a return.
I think the only time he's done it was, Marcus Jones has been limited,
Yeah, it
so
was
he
one
got
day.
like one or
Right,
two
right,
the other day. But yeah, it's been 3 pairs, and he hasn't been in any of the pairs.
All right.
So
Taylor, we'll start here before we get to Aiyuk. Last one. One player we didn't talk about today you're excited to watch on Thursday
Damn,
night.
put me on the spot.
oh boy,
KJ Osborne.
Okay.
He's on a hot streak, like you mentioned. The 4th and long catch that he had today just continued a string where every day he has one catch at least where you're like, oh, yeah, no, KJ Osborne is better than I gave him credit for, so I'll be looking for him.
Mike.
Jaheim Bell. He
Sure.
comes out here in pads all of a sudden. Looks like he's kind of has some momentum as far as playing, coming away from that injury. Made a nice catch from Drake Maye today. I think with Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry's age and situation on this team, they want to rely on those guys once the regular season comes around. So I think
in
there's going to
Mitchell
be a lot from
Wilcox's
Bell.
hands.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna say Bell, but I brought a backup prepared. Del Pettis,
Good one.
Oh, yeah, good
UDFA safety. Another pass breakup today. That's 3 straight
Been
days.
flying around.
Yeah.
He's very physical, so he's going to love being out there in game action. But 3 straight days where he's had a noticeable play. See if he can, continue that into Thursday.
All right, somebody pull up, because we'll do Aiyuk next. Somebody just pull up that update while I give mine. Terrell Jennings. Everybody knows
knew
how
it,
high I
I
am on
knew
him.
it, I knew it.
I like
The Del Pettis of offense.
pretty much. Well, no, Del Pettis is the Terrell Jennings of defense, because Terrell Jennings popped first. I like smash mouth football. They're going to run the ball a ton. It's the preseason. He's going to be out there cracking heads. Some people are going to be annoyed because I think they're going to run the ball a lot with Joe Milton on the field, and I'd love to see Joe Milton too, but I think that 4th quarter is going to be all about Terrell Jennings.
Yeah.
So that could be fun to watch. All right. Are we good with ads, by the way, Amit? We're good? We're good? All right, cool. Latest Brandon Aiyuk update. Mike, you have that from Josina Anderson.
From Josina Anderson tweets within the last half hour. She says, now I'm told Patriots aren't giving up on 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk stakes per source. The question is, can New England stretch the offer they're prepared to give? If so, by how much, and how much creates sway? So basically sounds like it's coming down to the contract situation, I think, and Aiyuk is going to want
that's
even more
unclear.
money.
Is that the contract
Right.
offer or the offer to the Niners?
Right.
I think it has to be the contract.
I would think so,
Because
too.
last night we heard the framework was pretty much in place.
Right.
in the trade.
Right.
So, look, this is ultimately going to come down to where Brandon Aiyuk wants to go.
Yep.
This reminds me a ton. We see this a lot in the NBA,
Yeah.
where a player basically doesn't just decide I want to be traded, but I want to go to X team. The team trading them loses a ton of leverage, and the only leverage they really have is the contract. And what I think you've seen the last few days is the Niners have the trades in place with the Patriots and Browns. Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Steeler.
Yep.
He said he was on the Ryan Clark podcast a couple weeks ago, and they said, what team are you playing for in 2024? He said San Francisco. If not for San Francisco, Washington, or Pittsburgh. He didn't mention the Patriots. He didn't mention the Browns. He didn't mention any of these other teams. I know some people have mentioned the Lions like sneaking in. That's not. The Niners aren't going to do that outright because they're
Don't Titans me
competition.
Lions. Lightens.
We'll get to the Titans. The Titans love broken players. They'll trade for Deebo Samuel and free up the money for the Niners to pay Brandon
Or
Aiyuk.
McCaffrey
But
after the Cavs trade today.
Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Steeler. The Steelers aren't giving the Niners enough. They kind of know the Niners are hamstrung if Brandon Aiyuk will only sign with Steelers. And I think the Niners are putting some of this out there to try to get the Steelers to up their offer. Everybody goes home happy. I'll say this on up in the offer. Money's money. I get that. You do need to have a price where you're willing to walk away. You can't give guys blank checks. They did that with Calvin Ridley. It was good discipline.
I think Taylor disagrees.
Brandon Aiyuk is not the last great receiver who will become available. Maybe he is for this season, but you have a 4-year building period with Drake Maye. If they get Brandon Aiyuk, and if the trade costs, I said this in our group chat last night, if you only give up one top 50 pick, I'll dance in the street. That's a great trade. But
Do we get a video of that?
no, absolutely not. But if they can't get him, this cycle of wide receivers, it's him, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper was kind of floated out there, right? This cycle's over. I'm okay if they miss in this cycle. I've talked about threading the needle on when to add the guy. Next cycle's when you add DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins again, Terry McLaurin, right? This isn't the last opportunity they'll have to make this move. I'd like to see them make it now. They don't have to make it now. They shouldn't overextend to make it now. I also just don't think it's going to happen right now from everything we're hearing.
But that mentality kind of reminds me of what we talked about with a quarterback. And obviously it's not the same thing because there are elite receivers that are in the draft every single year. They're a little more available.
Not just in the draft, in free agency,
right,
for trade.
But in free agency, like with quarterbacks, you don't really want to bank on a great quarterback hitting the market because that rarely happens. And when it does, there's usually a reason. Yeah. With these great receivers, if they're going to hit the market like T. Higgins, obviously, like that whole fiasco, we were talking about it. Higgins is a guy where I have some hard nose, where I'm like, he has an injury history. He's not super old or anything, but given the nature of his position, how he plays, it's discouraging. Brandon Aiyuk is like CeeDee Lamb for me. They're in the same category where it's like, this is a top 10 receiver, no significant injury history. They're young, they're versatile. Like, you can do whatever you want with them, and they can legitimately take so much pressure off your entire offense. So for me, there's not really a price other than like matching Justin Jefferson's contract. That's where I think it's kind of pushing it. But if it's just south, these contracts go up every year. As soon as Brandon Aiyuk gets paid, maybe not as soon, but CeeDee Lamb is going to surpass whatever Brandon Aiyuk probably makes.
And then
so
DK Metcalf and then all these other guys.
And not to mention the Patriots are now in a position where they can truly draft and develop. They've done all their extensions. The only players that aren't going to be on, or at least set to be free agents in 2025, are guys you don't really think they're going to be building around. And that's where you probably
I think Jonathan Jones is the only guy that's
Jonathan
like a notable.
Jones. And with his injury history, you're probably like expecting it might just be retirement. So the way I see it, if you're going to back up the Brinks and throw money at somebody and spend a lot of money, wide receiver is the second most important position in football. You've got your quarterback on a rookie deal. You've taken care of your veteran defenders. Now is when you take a chunk of that cap space, which you have plenty of, and you put it towards Brandon Aiyuk.
I guess my point isn't so much they shouldn't do it. And like you said, like these contracts go up. There's no such thing as a bad contract for a good player. When's the last time a guy signed one of these big money contracts and was decent, but the reaction is, but did they need to pay him that much, right?
Maybe Debo, honestly, and that's because he got hurt.
Well, but Debo's not good. Debo's that's my point.
He's good, but he's injury prone. Like,
right, he's not living up to the contract. You either live up to the contract, you don't. You're not good, but not good enough for the contract. So I'm not worried about that. I guess my point is, I'm not hitting the panic button if they miss out on Brandon Aiyuk. It's unfortunate, but again, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin. If you can make the same trade and give that guy essentially the same contract and you lose out on 6 months, or even if you lose out on one full season, most of which, again, we think will be started by Jacoby Brissett, okay, you still got the guy eventually and you got him for Drake Maye.
And I've been on Aiyuk and it's not just me. I didn't start the Aiyuk thing, but I've been one of the people, a lot of the people saying, go get Aiyuk.
I've been several of the people.
Yeah, but go get a guy, right? And you want that guy for Drake Maye. You want him from your young quarterback to develop with him, have a security blanket, be that true number one in the offense. But I'm with you as far as not hitting the panic button because they've shown aggressiveness already. They went for Calvin Ridley. They're going for Brandon Aiyuk. I think there was talks where they
tried to trade back into the first round.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been aggressive. The front office has been aggressive for that number one wide receiver. I would love Aiyuk. I think he's great. I think he adds that element to the offense. I would overextend. I would overpay for him because you mentioned too, Taylor, the contracts move up. As soon as he signs, the next one signs. The next one signs. It's like quarterbacks where you sign him and that's why Matthew Judon's so upset. At one point, Matthew Judon, I'm pretty sure, was one of the top 3 or 4 highest paid edge rushers in the league, and now he falls down just because that's where the market goes. So I like the aggressiveness. I would love Aiyuk, but you're right. The next one will come shortly.
Let me be clear. I'd overextend on the contract a little bit, not a ton. I'm not overextending on the trade. I want to get to that in a second, but Brian, your thoughts?
Ever since the draft, I've kind of just been like, let's roll with this group just for the year and then hit next cycle. Now, Aiyuk was the one guy where I was like, okay, if he still shakes out, like, you should get him.
If you can get him, you get him.
Taylor, like, him and CeeDee Lamb are on another level to me with, like, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf. Like, Aiyuk is the guy where if he's available, you go out and get him now. But at the end of the day, I still think he's either staying in San Francisco or he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, probably more likely. So they might not even.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
As far as, too, like, Aiyuk is clearly available. Will CD become available? Will DK become available?
That's my thing.
It's tough to say that any individual one will. The way the league runs, the odds that none of them become available.
Right.
And I look at CeeDee Lamb. clearly getting a little disenchanted with the Cowboys, the way that whole saga's gone. And I don't think Jerry Jones is going to pay him and Dak Prescott. And Jerry Jones is going to not pay Dak Prescott. When it comes to DK Metcalf, the quarterback situation's uncertain there. It's a new coaching staff, new front office. We think it's going to be a new offensive philosophy. Does he want to get out and go to a system where he'll succeed? Which I think you talk about a matchup of skill sets, him and Drake Maye. That's a right, exactly. Taylor gets the chills. That's a really good pairing. I think if Drake Maye shows you a little something this year, you could really sell DK Metcalf on this. And look, maybe this is a little bit of a glass half full, rose-colored glasses take. I know people keep saying the Patriots keep getting used as leverage, and that's all this is. That's all their interest is they're getting used as leverage. I don't think they're allowing themselves to do that. I think maybe that's happening. It's not intentional on their part to like play favor to agents or whatever. Yeah. Eventually, like the teams looking for these receivers, the list is getting shorter and shorter. Eventually, there's not going to be that many teams that want a wide receiver. Right. And by process of elimination, you would think the Patriots have to land one of these
every
guys.
Team that loses one just needs a new one, right?
Yeah, well, they're trading them for these draft picks, which they're using to draft them.
I guess.
So I think that's the trade. There's too many wide receivers. Simply put, it's economics. I'm not an expert in economics. I don't understand what happened in the stock market yesterday, but I can tell you this: supply. What?
Ask Tyquan Thornton.
It was a tough one.
Yeah.
You just said it. It's supply and demand.
Yeah,
supply and demand. There's more wide receivers than there are teams willing to pay number one wide receivers. So these guys are becoming available. So that's why I'm not hitting the panic button. One other side note in all of this isn't being discussed a lot right now, and I understand why, but it is important if this deal doesn't get done, or maybe even if it does. The Patriots signed Kendrick Bourne to a new contract 6 months ago. And honestly, the Cleveland Browns signed Amari Cooper to a new deal, like 2 weeks ago? Yeah. This applies to them, too. Both of these guys are reportedly included in those trade parameters that have been set pending Aiyuk agreeing to the contract. That is a dangerous game as a team whenever you do that. And Gerard Mayo said he had a good talk with Kendrick Bourne today. But just objectively, you made an agreement with this player. And even, you sign a guy to a multi-year deal, you trade him after the first year. That always raises some eyebrows among players and agents. Maybe Kendrick Bourne's cool with it. I'm sure he'd love to go back to San Francisco and play for contender, and he's been there before and all that. The Patriots need to make sure now that this is leaked. This happened with the Celtics last year. Malcolm Brogdon, a year after signing a contract, was included in trade negotiations. The trade fell through. He essentially then demanded a trade. He said, fine, you don't want me, I'm out of here. I don't think Kendrick Bourne would necessarily go that far, but you risk him being disgruntled. Agents don't see this well. Like, if you're negotiating with a player represented by the same agent, he's going to ask the question, how do I know, my guy wants to be here. How do I know you're not going to trade him in 6 months somewhere he doesn't want to be? That's not to say it's all completely broken because of this. But it's something the Patriots will need to address. We probably won't hear about it, but it needs to be addressed internally. I was surprised when I saw Kendrick Bourne's name attached to that last night.
We had these conversations this summer, too, with KJ Osborne, where we were talking about the wide receiver room and how it's going to shake out and how could KJ Osborne be a cut candidate? Well, you just signed him. That's kind of a bad look, too. Now, granted, it's different in competition versus trading someone away.
Yeah.
But I do think, and that's what's tough about the media and leaks and conversations between GMs, where it's like, okay, it's not a bad thing if you trade Kendrick Bourne for Brandon Aiyuk on the surface. And then when Elliot Wolf calls John Lynch and say, hey, we'll add Bourne in there. Let's call this the framework from now, see what else you can get, and hangs up.
It's a Madden move.
And then,
it's an easy Madden move.
And then
you can't do that in Madden.
Yeah. You were joking. I was like, this feels unethical. I wouldn't do this in Madden. I'd be like,
it doesn't let you trade someone that you just signed like that.
And then it gets leaked, and it's a tough look. But at the same time, I don't think it's. I like that they had the conversation with Bourne, right? Okay, this is what's happening. Here's why.
And
I hope you understand
the kind of guy you think would handle it well.
Yeah. Right. I mean, he wants to be a captain of this team, which is also a tough look, too, where
he says he wants to be part of the
rebuild.
rebuild.
He's been here. He comes out and stretches every single day, and maybe I jumped the gun a little bit earlier by saying that he wasn't out of practice.
Gotta stir the pot, Mike.
Coming back from a torn ACL on a rainy field. You got to stir the pot a little bit. He wasn't out there. That's an objective observation. Anyway, but I do think, long story short, that if you have to make that deal, any team's going to do it, but it's a tough look for a guy, again, who has poured his heart and soul into being a New England Patriot, wants to be a part of it, wants to be a captain, etc.
Maybe he's like, hey, I'd go back to San Francisco, have some stability for the first time in like
try and win
3 or 4 years.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. I think it is a really awkward situation that you put yourself in by putting a player out there, but these guys know football is a business. Not everyone, obviously, like Matt Judon. Some people hate the business side, and as much as, you'd like for there to be a separation, things start to overlap. And with Judon, I think we all thought, he's probably the one that
He
if
makes
a player's
a lot more
involved,
sense.
because he's clearly not very happy with you. Like even, today we had a kind of a weird little Judon situation where he leaves practice, comes back, and he's out of his pads, and we were like, is something happening? Because Elliot Wolf was on the field around the same time, and we were like, oh my God, is this it?
Me.
Yeah, so, with Kendrick Bourne, like you guys said, I think that of anybody, he's probably going to be the one who lets it slide off more than someone else. But we got to keep an eye on that situation. And if he is a little bit upset by the fact that he said, I want to be part of this rebuild for a completely unproven franchise, but regime, and then you're like, yeah, but also we might kick you to the – not kick you to the curb, but, get rid of it.
In an interview, too, earlier this offseason with Boston.com's Kari Thompson, Bourne said someone who we would want to see the team try and go get is Brandon Aiyuk because he used to play for him. So then they ship him out for that. It's just it's a tough look, but again, it's the business of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just considering it's a team he's been on, the same coach and like a Super Bowl contender, you hope that he's just okay with it. Right. And it seems like that they had a conversation, him and Mayo, that maybe he is. So that's just, reiterating that again, like, because it can be a slippery slope if they just start trading these guys that they're just signing.
I don't mean to sound the alarm too much either. Like, it's very possible Bourne, they talked to Bourne about it. He goes, yep, I understand. I'm good, But, again, you don't know how does the agent feel. It's honestly more the agent than him because the agents can, their clients see it and then their clients ask about, you're signing all these guys to extensions. They're all going to look at it and say, well, how secure am I? I just signed just like he did. So it's just it's another challenge for a first-year GM and a first-year front office that it's going to be something they have to navigate. I think ideally for them, this just never leaks. And I don't think that's something that leaked from New England. Right. I don't think they wanted that out there. I think they're probably upset that part's out there. Maybe not the whole interest in Aiyuk part, but the Kendrick Bourne part. But I don't know, just something that's gone under talked about. When you talk about the human side of it, and like you guys talked about, there's a business side of it, and guys understand that. But something like this maybe alienates players that are looking for somewhere where the business side of it won't be as in their face.
I like that you related it to Brogdon, too, because in the back of their head, it's like, well, they'll offer me up for anything the next time. They might tell me, well, we just had to try it this time, but you're safe now. It's like, how do you really know for sure? That's always in the back of your head and can kind of, screw, again, with your relationship with the team moving forward.
And with a front office that has no track record.
Yeah, like you don't know, I hope this doesn't become a thing with them because that's going to be hard to navigate. Again, this is a really unique scenario where Bourne has played there before. You could argue it's probably a better fit for him, things like that. But you never know. And maybe he gets asked about it at some point. Maybe he doesn't. But there's so many. It's crazy how quickly we got. It was just for a while Brandon Aiyuk's available, and that was the whole story. And are the Niners going to keep him? Are they going to pay him? Are they going to trade him? Whatever. And now in like the last 36 hours, it's layers on layers on layers. I guess before we wrap up here, we good on Brandon Aiyuk updates?
I think so. I haven't seen anything new.
Make sure.
All right, so we'll wait and see. Week 1, 2024, Brandon Aiyuk is playing for the Brian.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Taylor.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Patriots. Why not? He's going to be a Steeler.
San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what should happen.
Yeah.
Somebody
should not trade him.
Tweeted last night the what's that show? Mad Men meme of like John Hamm coming up with the idea, and it was like, what if we don't trade Brandon Aiyuk? It literally seems like they haven't considered that. And I know their cap situation's a mess. Figure it out for that guy. You know what? I'm going to say
not a mess this year, a mess next year, because I feel like somebody's going to look it up and be like, oh, they're fine
next
this year.
Right.
It's like next year they're
Bold
screwed.
Bold take. If they trade Brandon Aiyuk, it's the beginning. That will go down when we look back on it. Beginning of the end of the title window.
I think so, too, because then you have to pay Brock Purdy. And
you have to play Brock Purdy.
George Kittle's retiring.
Kittle's getting older.
Samuel's
Debo struggles. McCaffrey's a running back. How long is he going to last?
Pearsall's
Offensive
already
line
hurt.
isn't good.
Trent Williams
isn't
is like
playing.
36.
What if we just traded for Trent Williams?
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah. Sure. Fine. Okay, let's
do that.
But I just
There's a John Hamm meme for you.
this could be the beginning of the end of this specific window, and dare I go a step further, the Shanahan era in San Francisco.
I was just going to say a notable
if they move
Shanahan
on
hater and Alex Barth.
Praying for his downfall over here.
It's not a smart move if they trade him. All right, we can go on and on about this. We'll wrap it up there. Off day tomorrow. You guys have a show tomorrow?
Taylor might have something.
Taylor, you have tomorrow?
Yes, I will have something tomorrow. And I'll have stuff.
All right,
Keep
so
it locked.
Patriots Daily tomorrow. Mike and Taylor stuff, CLNSmedia.com. Brian, patspulpit.com. I have stuff on 98.5, thesportshub.com. You can also catch me Thursday afternoon, 11 o'clock. I'll be on for an hour or two on the Sports Hub, getting you ready for preseason game number 1 against the Panthers. What is the post game? Actually, I'm the host. I should know. You're going to be on, I would assume.
I'll be there.
All right, you be on post game?
we'll do it.
All right, so they'll have a post game show. Patriots Beat will have, there you go. Patriots Beat will have a reaction the next day, probably on Friday, to break it all down. Until then, thanks to Amit and the crew who've done a great job through these live shows. We'll probably do one again next week, but again,
Might not
the
be
block
live.
ends on Tuesday, but we have our media game now.
we might have
yeah.
to come up after the media game and do a breakdown.
All right.
All right, we'll see.
I'll
We'll
have
keep you
ice on the
posted.
shoulder.
Patriots Press Pass on Twitter, or
the sign
Patriots
off.
CLNS on Twitter, figure it out. So until then, until the next one, whenever that is, there's a bunch of next ones. For Brian Hines, Taylor Kyles, and Mike Kadlick, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.